The tax filing deadline is less than a week away. Have you filed your taxes yet? CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger is here to help guide us through this process. So, Jill, what would you tell people who have not filed their taxes yet?
Maybe clear your weekend plans, gather up all those documents, and fire up your computer. The quickest and most efficient way to file is electronically, and use direct deposit in case you are due a refund. That's the fastest way to get it. To reduce errors, here's your checklist. Double check Social Security numbers, correct filing status, calculate and claim deductions and credits correctly. Those are very valuable. Put brackets around negative numbers, and of course, sign and date the return.
Yeah, so if you cannot meet the deadline, what do you need to do? Walk us through how to actually file for an extension.
It's really easy. Go to irs.gov and it's Form 4868. That will give you 6 more months until October 15th to file. But here's the thing. It's a strange thing about extensions. You have extra time to file but not to pay, meaning you probably withheld a certain amount of money. But if you owe more money, maybe you sold property last year, or maybe one of you in a couple made more money, you should send the IRS an estimate of what you think you owe by April 15th. That will really help you avoid or reduce potential penalties and interest. Now, also, if you file for an extension, the deadline to make an IRA or a Roth IRA contribution remains April 15th, so don't put that off.
Okay, so what happens if you owe the IRS money this year, but you just don't have the money to pay that amount? What are your options?
Uncle Sam's got you covered. There are short and long-term payment plans. They'll stretch payments out over many months. A couple of fees that that you'll have to pay to do it, but it's not that bad. One thing though, the IRS does allow payment with a credit card. Don't do that. It's the most expensive way to pay because of the fees that are attached to it. Also, of course, if you use a credit card and then you don't pay the balance off quickly, ouch, then you're paying high interest rates on top of that tax bill. So let's avoid credit cards on our bills for Uncle Sam.
All right, and taxes, we know, not the only thing that's top of mind for a lot of Americans right now. Another important topics, tariffs and Wall Street. President Trump's reciprocal tariffs went into effect on items really from almost every country. For China, the tariff is now 104%. So what products do you expect the average consumer to notice the biggest impact?
I think what you'll probably see, at the first place you'll see it, is in the grocery store, because those 25% tariffs on Mexico on fruits and vegetables, you'll start to see a little bit of price increase there. May not be wildly noticeable, but it'll be a little bit bigger grocery bill. Then you move into the next step, which is apparel. So clothing, footwear, that's going to be the next kind of evolution of the tariffs. Probably in the next weeks or months. It really depends on how quickly this inventory gets eaten up by consumers. We've talked about auto tariffs. I think that auto dealers are seeing a lot of activity. Once they work through all of that inventory, that's going to really mean that the next imported group of cars and trucks are going to cost more money. Here's the thing though, gang. Don't rush out and buy stuff you don't need. That's not what you should do, because the problem with the tariff situation, if those tariffs remain in place, it does probably increase the chance that prices will rise, but it also increases the chances that the economy will slow down and we go into a recession. So spending all of your money on hand on stuff is not the greatest recipe for you if the economy slows down.
Now, I heard you mention we could see some of those increases in weeks, maybe months, depending on the inventory for some of those items. But let's talk about the grocery store with fruits and vegetables. How soon could we see an increase there?
I think this is like happening now. I went to the grocery store and I saw that bananas were 10 cents more per pound. Now, I'm sure that anything we import from Mexico or Canada, that's really what you're going to see. Now, there's the funny thing about these tariffs when it comes to fruits and vegetables, it's that you have alternatives. So we do import a lot of fruits and vegetables from Mexico, but there are alternatives. There are things that you can shift towards. Also, you should still eat your fruits and vegetables, I think. That's what the doctors tell us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's important. So I also want to talk about Wall Street right now. The S&P 500 close to a bear market. What exactly does that mean?
Well, the S&P 500, which is the 500 largest U.S. companies, this is an index that peaked on February 19th. So it reached this high level on February 19th. And a bear market is defined as a 20% drop from the recent peak. So that's what we're looking at. And that's, bear markets don't happen all the time. They don't necessarily mean that we're going into a recession. They can coexist with a recession. So a 20% drop, that's sizable. If you're a long-term investor, you have to go through these periods. They're really painful. It's stinky. But if you need any money from your investments within the next 12 or 18 months, get it out of the risky assets. Never should have been there in the first place. Let's make sure you got the money to pay your kids' tuition.
And for people who are close to retiring or are already in retirement, what is your advice for them?
Well, look, retirement is not a date in one moment in time when it comes to your money. Your retirement lasts decades. So the same rule of thumb is whatever you think you need from your retirement account, from your 401k, your 403b, whatever you think you would need within the next year or two, you'd keep that out of risky assets. Everything else has to keep growing because you are hopefully going to be retired for decades in the future. So I think that it's sort of a mixed bag depending on where you are in the retirement cycle and what needs you have for the money.
All right, Jill Schlesinger, as always, we appreciate your insight and advice, and you can see Jill regularly on CBS Mornings and the CBS Evening News.